The story of Alan Turing and the Enigma cipher has become widely known since it was declassified in the 1970s. But what many don't know is that the Enigma cipher was actually the younger brother of the far tougher Lorenz Cipher. Personally used by Hitler and his top generals, Lorenz held a secret so monumental that it couldn't be declassified until 2002, nearly 60 years after the end of the Second World War. While Grand Admiral Dönitz and German field commanders were using Enigma machines to make their messages unreadable, Hitler and his cronies were using Lorenz machines. The first few messages were sent in 1940, but it wasn't until mid-1942 that the machine was brought into substantial use. In classic Nazi style, the army got their hands on it first. Messages enciphered with these machines were always top priority, as they often came from the Führer himself. From the German High Command building of Wunsdorf near Berlin, Lorenz messages beamed out across Europe and North Africa, carrying orders that would change the tides of major battles. The Lorenz machines looked similar to Enigma machines, but were seriously souped up. Where an Enigma machine has 3 adjustable code wheels, a Lorenz machine has 12. These wheels spun when a letter was typed in a keyboard attached to the machine, and as they could all be set individually, the Lorenz machine had 16 million possible settings. This ridiculous level of complexity meant that the Lorenz cipher was completely impossible to break by hand. Unlike Enigma, pulling out the old notepad and pen just didn't cut it. But this didn't put off the geniuses at Bletchley Park. When they saw a mathematical problem, they couldn't wait to get stuck into solving it. The Brits had been listening in on Lorenz signals from the moment they first picked one up, and they knew right away that there was something different about them. These signals weren't transmitted in Morse code, but binary, the ones and zeros of computer language. John Tiltman, a leading Bletchley Park codebreaker, took charge of cracking this new cipher, but it wasn't going to be easy. He started by nicknaming the intercepted signals fish and the code itself tunny, short for a tuna fish. Then he got to work on the cipher. But even with Alan Turing's bespoke code-breaking method, Tiltman and his fellow brainiacs couldn't crack it. The cipher was just too complex. However, any piece of advanced technology is only as good as the person behind it, and one lowly radio operator was about to do more for the codebreakers in a single day than they had managed to do so far in the entire war. On August 20th, 1941, a German army command post in Vienna received a message on their Lorenz machine. It had come from another command post in occupied Athens, but interference had garbled part of the message. In uncoded Morse, the operator in Vienna asked for the message to be resent. Thinking nothing of it, the operator in Athens sent the message again, without changing his machine's code wheels. Back in England, the message had got through to the listening post without interference. It was just like the other fish, and was recorded and filed with the rest of the messages from that day. But when the listeners heard the uncoded request to transmit again, they got Bletchley Park on the line immediately. The resent message eventually came through too, and the codebreakers were handed a major breakthrough. When he resent the message, The radio operator in Athens abbreviated some of it while leaving the rest of it the same as before. But both messages were enciphered with the machine's wheels in the same position, which was strictly verboten. Using these two slightly different messages as a base, Tiltman and his team could work out the coding pattern the machine used. Within a month, they'd broken their first Lorenz message. Great as it was to crack a single message, as soon as the Germans moved Lorenz's wheels, the Brits had to start again. It was a total fluke, but one man was clever enough to make good use of it. William Tutt came over from the Enigma team to work on Lorenz in January 1942. It had been 5 months since the others had broken the message, and they still weren't much closer to cracking any more of them. Then, Tutt made a breakthrough. He noticed a 41-bit pattern, and from this, deduced some basic principles behind the machine's inner workings, including the 12 code wheels. In consultation with Turing, he then developed a system for breaking enciphered messages longhand. This was painfully slow, and by the time a message was broken, it often had little to no tactical value. But the geniuses had a start. All they had to do now was speed up the process. To do that, they needed something that would change the world. Bletchley Park contacted engineer Tommy Flowers, requesting that he design and build them a machine capable of completing the lengthy deciphering process in time for the intelligence to be useful. What he came up with was one of the world's first programmable computers, Colossus. The processor in the first Colossus was run by 1,600 vacuum tubes and fed data via long strips of hole-punched paper. It could be programmed by rearranging a series of complicated plugs and switches. The vacuum tubes sometimes failed when the computer was powered up, so Colossus couldn't be turned off. Flowers sent the Colossus to Bletchley Park in January 1944, and by February, it was processing German messages. As they watched the machine process 5,000 letters every second, Tiltman, Tutt, and the other codebreakers couldn't believe their eyes. Before long, Colossus was processing over 100 German messages a week, and the codebreakers were struggling to keep up with it. The Lorenz cipher had been well and truly broken. Unbeknownst to Hitler and his generals, the Brits were now reading all of his secret messages. Intel from broken Lorenz messages was crucial for the planning of D-Day and virtually all other Allied ground offensives of the war. But this isn't where the story ends, because cracking the Lorenz cipher led to another, even more vital breakthrough. In the Third Reich's final days, British and US intelligence were putting together 4 secret projects. One was called Target Intelligence Committee, or just TICOM. TICOM's role was to locate secret German cryptography and signals intelligence and, by any means necessary, bring it back to the West. Essentially, the Western allies knew the Germans had been working on some top-tier cryptography, and they wanted to loot as much of it as possible before the Soviets did. There were 6 teams, with Team 1 assigned to capture Lorenz machines, as, by May 1945, the Allies still hadn't seen one yet. On May 21st, they got a tip that a German POW knew the location of a secret signals facility and presumably offered the man a very comfortable life if he showed them the way. The POW was very cooperative and even found some members of his old unit to help out. They showed Team 1 the secret facility at Rosenheim and got the receivers up and running as a demonstration. The advanced equipment immediately began intercepting and decoding secret signals from Soviet high command. Straight away, it dawned on the Brits and Americans what they were looking at. One of the officers, First Lieutenant Paul Whitaker, later said, "They were intercepting Russian traffic right while we were there. Pretty soon, they had shown us all we needed to see." Team 1 packed everything up and sent all 7.5 tons of equipment, along with POWs, back to England. They had come looking for Lorenz machines, but they found something far better. And they weren't the only TICOM team to strike it rich. Team 5's entire job was recovering cipher documents from a lake, which was full of hurriedly disposed material. Now that Hitler was dealt with, his minions had left behind everything the West needed to listen in on Soviet transmissions during the Cold War. That was the top secret story of the Lorenz Cipher and the geniuses who managed to crack it. But what do you think? Do you think things might have played out differently if the Germans dumped Enigma and switched completely to Lorenz? Could the cipher have been broken without the German operator's mistake? How important do you think TICOM Team 1's find was for the early Cold War? Let us know all that and more in the comments section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching and I hope you learned something new.